Well, happy Thursday. I am going to share the PowerPoint that I sent out to you on Tuesday to make sure we are understanding where we are, what we're doing. Because I've heard from a couple of students, not many, but a couple, who are still confused on what's happening. So I'm going to be real clear and real frank. I'm sharing all this information multiple times. There's no need that I need to keep sharing every PowerPoint over and over and over. It's in your Google Drive. You have access to it. You can go back and get it. If we have to have a conversation about X, Y, or Z with the PowerPoint, happy to do that. But some students have said, I don't have that PowerPoint. I don't have that. I share it via email and sometimes put it in the chat. So I'm going to go back to that PowerPoint. And I'm going to make sure we're understanding, oops, not that one. I want to make sure we're understanding kind of what this looks like. And after I do that, I'm going to ask you to unmute and share your lit review situation. You can talk about what you found, where it's going, any of those sort of things. But I'm going to ask at least half of you to just unmute, share where you are, and then I'm going to ask, where are you with your argument section of your paper? Okay. So I'm going to share my screen if I can. Oops. Here we go. So again, we know it's our MLA. This is exactly what your paper should look like. So I'm going to go back. This is your heading. This is your heading. You must have a title. And then introduction goes right here. Okay. Heading, introduction, your paper starts. Okay. There's that. When you have finished with your introduction, lit review, as it is listed right there, is your next heading. And then everything under lit review is what it is. That's your lit review. Then your argument, then your conclusion, and your works cited, as always, is on a separate page. Okay? That's exactly what your paper should look like. So let me go back and help, or maybe not help, right word, discuss kind of where your argument piece should be going. Your lit review is separate from your argument. Introduction separate from your argument. Your argument is your distinct piece of your paper of where you're answering the question, of where you're telling me or arguing what ethical issues you may face in your career. That's your topic. You chose it based on your career, etc. Okay? So make sure that this is what your final paper looks like. Because next Thursday at this time, the paper is going to be due. Okay? Questions while I have this slide up. Okay, I'm going to stop sharing. And then I'm going to ask you to unmute and share bits and pieces or whatever you would like to about your lit review. So I will stop talking and allow you to talk.
I'll share. Sorry, hold on.
Oops, go ahead. I'm sorry, I was muted. Whoever would like to share, go ahead.
I'll share.
Yes.
So my lit review, in reviewing the resources that I had, a lot of it came down to when nurses start experiencing burnout anywhere from acute care up to administrator level, the quality of patient care is the thing that's affected the most. There are multiple different factors that happen, lack of resources, not feeling supported in their roles, and even down to the fact where there's not a lot of work-life balance and the amount of work hours that they are working. Most nurses are working 40 plus hours a week. So that's a lot of what I found in this experience. So, and unfortunately, I think it's a nature of the beast. And I think the worst part about it is the lack of needed resources. They can't even provide some of the care that they need to provide because of things they can't get.
So in your lit review, and you have shared your lit review with me, and it's really good. So thank you for that. Did you find that there were certain themes or certain trends within your research that you found that were very obvious?
Yeah, the amount of hours worked, every single nurse down to a school nurse is working 40 plus more hours a week. And I will say throughout the survey that I gave, 3 different nurses, again, ranging from acute care administration and school nursing, they all value patient care as the most valuable thing. However, because of burnout, that's what's affected the most. And they feel that stresses them out, I think, the most out of everything.
Got it. So your argument, now, if I'm wrong, if I'm wrong, correct me. Where I see your lit review taking you is your argument's going to be, we need to infuse more support for nurses so burnout doesn't occur as quickly.
Absolutely.
That's your argument.
Yep.
Based on the lit review the literature you reviewed.
Mm-hmm.
And your literature is going to support your argument.
Yes.
Correct.
Yep.
Perfect. That's what it's supposed to do.
Yep.
Okay. Raquel, do you have a question or do you want to have a comment?
So my lit review is on mental health related to deaf individuals. I found some really good sources related to therapy, stress levels, and learning how to build relationships within their families as well.
Okay.
And I realized that a lot of universities also don't offer a lot of help for deaf individuals, especially when they have mental health issues, and they tend, or if they have a language delay as well, that a lot of universities do not offer enough supports for that.
Okay, thank you for that. Brandy?
So the question that I posed was, do ELL students have equitable access to education? And basically after going through
Brandy,
and
let me interrupt you. Let's make sure we
Sure.
know what ELLs are.
English language learners.
Okay.
So a lot of the resources that I found and used were kind of all over the place. A lot of places on the West Coast have really great programs in place. A lot of places in the Midwest do not have any programs in place. A lot of places north near the Canadian border also do not have a lot of great resources in place. So my argument really is going to be that there needs to be some type of actual program in place across the board. When I did move forward, when I did move further into my research, I found that a lot of European countries have almost no issues gaining or giving equitable access to any bilingual student, which I thought was really interesting, given that we don't really utilize that and have good conversation back and forth with the European public school system. Where I feel like they would be a great resource for us, just given the heavy influx of refugees, of Hispanic students, and also have a lot of Arabic students. So there's a lot to kind of go off of. And my main points have to do with creating and using the community and the parents, actually labeling the students correctly. So I did find that a lot of places out west are now labeling these students as emergent bilinguals because it gives power to both languages rather than just English. And then the last thing, excuse me, was side-by-side learning and utilizing their peers to actually help them, and allowing them to dictate what they learn in their first language so that they can have a good understanding of their second language, and proving that they're not understanding by allowing them to use their first language primarily in the beginning. Hopefully all that made sense.
Okay, so your argument section is going to focus on providing equitable access to resources to learn English.
Yes, my argument section is going to focus on the fact that we need a actual overarching program and that we need to utilize. Yeah, yes.
Okay, so I'm gonna push back just a little bit because I am qualified to teach English as a second language. And in the state of Pennsylvania, you may not teach English as a second language unless you have a degree to teach English.
Yes.
So a social studies teacher can't be an ESL teacher. A French teacher can't be an ESL teacher. You must have a certification in English language arts in the Commonwealth to teach ESL. So I got my ESL cert when I was doing my doctoral work at Penn State, probably 10, 12 years ago. And the main, I shouldn't say main, one of the important pieces when you mention our European counterparts is that many European countries, kids are already learning a second language in kindergarten. So in Germany, they're learning English. In Japan, they're learning English and their own language. So their level of language learning is already infused in their brain. So it's not as hard for those students to pick up and help others learn a different language. Now, Arabic, any of the Middle Eastern languages are much different to learn, basically simply on how it's written. Chinese, Mandarin, Cantonese, those languages, symbol languages are also very difficult to teach and read. So I think a suggestion I would use, Brandy, would be using the European model this much and the lack of resources that much. So hey, in your introduction, I would put how our European counterparts, this is not really an issue. However, if you come to the Midwest, you come to other parts of our country, we don't have that. Even parts of Lancaster County, you'll find very limited English language development resources. So,
and the other thing I found was that within private school institutions, almost zero.
Yes.
Like
correct.
it is,
correct.
it's terrifying. Actually, so that was a big eye opener that there's almost zero.
And also that goes for our special ed counterparts too.
Yes.
And another thing that's important is you may find students who are identified as English language learners and need special education. That's another layer. Yeah. Ashley Hoffer.
Just a random kind of fun fact side note. I work for IU15 and Student Services, and AMPS and ELD falls under us. And it has been like a big thing on how we can reach families to better support ELD.
Exactly. Yes. Jolly.
So I just wanted to share this because English is my second language. Spanish is my first language. I grew up in Puerto Rico 20-something years. And the reason I think why English is easy for me and maybe other Puerto Ricans, maybe you want to take a look at the education system there because it's very similar to the US. We are taught English since pre-K kindergarten, and then we are taught English all the way throughout high school, college, everything. And it's part of the culture now more than before. But yeah, I just wanted to maybe throw that there.
Yeah, thank you for that. Raquel, do you have another question or comment?
No, I just can't get my hand raised to go down.
Okay, no worries. Okay, thank you for those folks that shared. Okay, who else wants to share? Those are very good examples.
I will.
Yeah,
So
London.
I don't have my paper in front of me. But so mine was I did mine on homelessness in Harrisburg. So my argument would be that we do have a lot of services for the homeless, and we do offer, like, shelter for people. And I'm not saying this part is wrong either, but there are a lot of women and children that are also going homeless, like, and families. So it does make it a little bit more challenging for males to get in as well. So my my argument is that I feel like I could, like, well, I mean, not just me personally, but I feel like there should be some type of plan that we could come up with, like with representatives, to put some kind of community together for the homeless, so that it's not so much of them trying to lean on the services of um, like what we already have now. So, like, basically just to have representatives come up with a plan that is accurate enough to keep up with what's going on, like with the homelessness in Harrisburg, because it is a big issue, as it's like it causes fires under bridges, as we've seen with the Mulberry Bridge fire. I think that was like 2 years ago. Um, so that's like basically what I have right now.
Okay, that's great. When I say that's a good topic, I don't mean homelessness is a good topic, but I think it's a good way to look at that issue. Awesome. Someone else?
Thank you.
Yeah, Jolly, you want to go?
Okay. Yeah. So I'm doing my paper on chemical waste and how it affects the environment and in turn humans and biology. I'm going to be focusing mostly on heavy metals and on nanoparticles, specifically like nanoplastics, and in the current technologies that there are to remove them that are actually good for the environment, efficient, and all of these things, but maybe they're not so cost effective in the short term, and that's basically what's hindering like all of these things from being used, which are like we can use organisms to clean up all this chemical waste, and they can actually like not digest, but they can help us get rid of all that waste and actually um purify it, or like just make it not harmful for us or not as harmful. And my argument's basically gonna be that it's not right, it's not ethical that just because of a financial situation that is not, that it doesn't really have many more ethical implications aside from the lack of financial sponsorship, basically. We shouldn't be hindered by something like that to like keep heavy metals out of our like drinking water and all of our resources, because it is present in everything and it's really really harmful for biology in general, humans, animals, and it just affects the whole ecosystem as a whole.
Outstanding. Did you find any research on the water crisis that happened in Flint, Michigan several years ago, where there was contaminated water in Michigan, and they did lots of research and sort of found out that the contamination was, of course, caused by humans, but it wasn't as easily fixed. So if you've not done any research on the water crisis in Flint, Michigan several years ago, I'm not saying go back and do additional research, but that may be something that you may be interested in. It could deal with metals being in water. I don't know specifically, but it was contamination. Do you know about that?
I know a little bit about it because I know that
Okay.
back when it was like big, I still know that they still don't have access to clean water.
Okay.
Which is wild, but yeah, there's that, and there's also the more recent chemical spills from the trains. I think it was
Yes.
last year
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
they have been going back to those rivers and those places like within the past 2-3 months, and it's already been a year. And there's still chemical runoff that like the water's testing positive for, I don't remember exactly
Yeah.
what, for that. And I also did research on the way that we're using fungi, bacteria, and other types of organisms to clean up our heavy metals and our nanoplastics and all that. So I'm
That's
definitely
going to be such an interesting paper.
yeah, I'm
That's going to
definitely
be a
gonna
great paper.
yeah. Just to see the types of metals that are over there could also
Yeah.
could actually be that type of cleanup.
Yeah. Outstanding. Thank you for that. All right. Someone else? Or I can call on someone. Because they're giving you a lot of time to do this work.
I can go.
Thank you, Jaden.
Yep. I'm doing my paper on nurse bullying. I wanted to focus more on bullying from superiors instead of horizontal bullying, which is between nurses. There wasn't as much research on bullying from superiors, but I did find a good amount of sources to use. I wanted to focus on like the effects it can have, like the mental health, burnout, and can cause a lot of nurses to quit. Yeah. What else did you say?
Okay.
But yeah.
So tell me what kind of research did you find?
There was I found a lot of studies that were done that did a lot of research on how many nurses have been bullied, and found a lot of percentages on that.
Did you find out that it is it based on age, based on race, based on parts of the country?
A lot. I found that it happens a lot with non-native speakers, depending on the gender, because of how long they've worked at that workplace. A lot of different factors that I want to go into detail about.
Got it.
Yeah.
So this is what your PowerPoint is going to look like. Your 5 or 6 slide PowerPoint is going to be kind of an introduction to what you're sharing with me now.
Okay.
Okay. So this is for everyone. 5 or 6 slides, the who, what, where, and how of your research. Okay. Not a stressful experience. You're just putting down what you've already written, all of your thoughts in your paper, and you're going to encapsulate that in the 5 to 6 slides. Okay. So this is sort of an introduction to that. Colin, you have been on requested to share your topic. You okay with that?
I mean, I don't mind sharing my topic, but I've got so much to get into. It's
okay.
Yeah.
Can you give us maybe a minute?
Yeah. So I'm working on basically like the ethical arguments behind I don't know how do I describe it. Limiting I guess reducing I guess sex offenders rights or limiting their rights. But my problem is when you really dig down into everything and start getting into the case law, it's like they're pretty substantially limited as it is. So do we do more? And I I don't know if I can make the argument that we should I guess start taking more rights away.
So
Do you think that's because they should have grace?
No,
Brandy, I'm
I don't know
interrupting
if I would say that. Um
Or because they have room
But
for
what
growth? Or I'm
I
just
think
wondering, just ethically, how you're
I
thinking of it.
morally speaking and ethically on my end, I would say that people are generally capable of change, but um I mean, I guess if you really get down into it and you start talking about like the really like sexually violent predators, people like that, they're there's no hope for them. They're going to be, either in and out of jail or in jail for the rest of their lives, and if they don't, they're probably going to get killed there. So, um, it,
Well,
I'm trying to focus more on like people that are registering for like 15 to 25 years. Uh, we call them the lesser versions of those crimes. Every single one of them is a like a first or second degree felony. Like you're talking about people that are getting, 5 to 10 years in state prison, federal prison, and the the type of people they're going to be around or the type of conditions they're living in there. I don't know if that's safe for them either, because you have to take a humanitarian approach, right? I mean, you're putting people in jail not just to punish but to rehabilitate. So if you're not giving somebody the death penalty, why are you basically giving them a death sentence and sending them to state prison, putting them in general population, things like that, right?
what if you
So,
set a parameter
okay.
for your argument? Like, what if you set a parameter or like a condition for certain cases specifically, and you go like into specific cases of that type of abuse, so that you can make an argument for that specific thing instead of having to do it for a broader thing, because it's a legal thing. So, and it's like ethical and all that, but maybe like shrinking it down to a more specific thing could help you.
I am working on doing that, but I think the biggest dilemma I have with uh, any of these cases is they require explanation of, like the statutes and case law behind, you know, the offense itself. I mean, can anybody here actually define, unlawful restraint or,
Yeah, that's a lot of
false
nuance.
imprisonment, corruption of mind? Like we'll even go to something that's like very in depth, corruption of minors, right? And then there's sub offenses within that. So in convicting somebody of these crimes, you're considering all of these other factors. And I don't know, I'm getting lost in the research. I'll put it that
So
way.
I'm gonna say this. I'm gonna give you some suggestions right now. Remembering it's a 3,000 word paper. Okay. You are not writing a master's thesis. You are not writing a dissertation in psychology. You're not writing a dissertation in criminal justice. You're writing a 3,000 word paper for me in English 102. So taking that and synthesizing information down to what you think you're actually going to need. Okay, that's hard. That's a hard skill that I had to learn. So you have some time, but thinking about, okay, what do I really want to include in this paper? What's really going to be the most important part for Dr. McDonald to read and to help figure out my argument? Someone else want to share? Okay, do I need to give you time back to work? It's 5:48. We come back at 6:30. No, let's come. Yeah, let's come back at 5:45. We'll come back at 5:45. So here's sort of our charge, I guess, for the rest of the semester. Because remembering, next week is our last week. Before you do your presentation of your paper. So I want to make sure that you're leveraging all of the time that you need, and that if you need me, there's conversations that you and I need to have. Let's have them. Let's talk about if you're stuck with your argument, if you're stuck with kind of what you think your conclusion is going to be. I'm going to tell you now, your conclusion is all about your findings. What did you find? What did you find in your research? And that sometimes is a difficult section of a paper to write. It was for me when I did my my big paper, my dissertation. So 5:49. We'll come back at 6:45. I'll be here at my computer. For our time on Tuesday, I will share my PowerPoint that I used when I defended my dissertation. Yours will not be near as detailed as mine, but I'm going to show you kind of what I shared with my committee. Just as a guide. It'll be just as a guide, nothing that you have to replicate other than this was but this was like a 20-minute presentation. But yours is not going to be that much. And I'm just going to show you kind of what it should look like. Okay. Did you all get your survey to rate me? Did that come to you? Did you get the survey? It's a class survey? Yes. Okay, great. Okay. If we were meeting face to face, I would know when they would come out because I would have to give them. I'd have to give them to you, but I don't usually know when they're coming out. So, okay, 5:50, 6:45. We'll come back, do a brief check-in, and for Tuesday, what we're going to do is again look at my PowerPoint, and then think about kind of what your PowerPoint might look like. All right. If you need me, I'm here. We'll be back at 6:45.
Professor McDonald, this is Raquel. I have a question.
Yes.
Can I do my slides on another app other than just PowerPoint?
Sure.
Okay, thank you so much.
Yep.